Business Value podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Mastery Partners, where our mission is to equip business owners to maximize business value so they can transition their business on their terms. Our mission was born from the lessons we've learned from over 100 business transactions, which fuels our desire to share our experiences and wisdom so you can succeed. Now here's your host, CEO of Mastery Partners, Tom Bronson.
Hi, this is Tom Bronson, and welcome to Maximize Business Value, a podcast for business owners who are passionate about building long-term sustainable value in your business. So in this episode, I'd like to welcome our guest, Heather Steele. She's the principal with Steele Solutions. You got to love that name, right? Steele. I love that. It's a marketing agency here in the DFW area, but it doesn't stop there. She owns or partners with others in the Marketing Forge, which is resources for DIY marketers, Problem Solver Sites, which is turnkey websites and content writing, the Advisor's Edge, which is business development and marketing resources for business advisors, and Value Building Marketing with her partner, Randy Skinner, which is a marketing and strategy firm and a fractional chief marketing officer business based here. Now, Value Building Marketing focuses on strategies to increase business value, which is, of course, a subject near and dear to our hearts here at Maximize Business Value. Now, I've gotten to know Heather over the last year or so, as we both have served on the board of the local Exit Planning Institute chapter, and her firm is the marketing agency for our upcoming Business Transition Summit. And I have to tell you, she knows what she's doing, and you're going to have a great listen here. So strap on your seatbelts, folks. We're going to have a fun ride. So welcome to Maximize Business Value, Heather.
Thanks for having me, Tom.
It is so good to have you here and to talk about marketing because it's one of those things that business owners, we all do it, but we don't really understand how that improves our business value. So we're going to talk about those things today. So tell us a little bit about your business, or should I say businesses?
Yeah, I didn't realize till you're reading off that list that I guess I'm a bit of a serial entrepreneur. So Steele Solutions is kind of the parent company over all of these other things. Everything really focused on marketing and communications. And so today, I think the most relevant business for us to talk about is Value Building Marketing, where we do marketing strategy work. We're typically focusing on businesses that are either trying to kind of break their glass ceiling, take their business to some new level, make a big change within the business, or they're preparing to exit the business and they need a marketing and branding strategy that's going to get them there. And so we come in, we evaluate what the business is doing, what they've done in the past as far as marketing goes, and then we create a strategy, a 12-month strategy for them. And typically we'll stay on as a fractional CMO, oversee the process, make sure the strategy is being executed properly, and then either work with their people or bring in our own team to do all of the execution.
That's brilliant. That is a tightly defined niche, right? Working with business owners that are intending to exit their business, and goodness knows we know gracious plenty of those folks. But I would argue that every business owner needs to be thinking about their exit strategy, and whether that exit is a year from now or 5 years from now or 20 years from now, what you do today in your business can have a dramatic impact on the outcome, and what you do in your marketing today, even if you're not going to exit for 20 years, is something that can dramatically impact the outcome. I had a fun trip this morning, kind of walking through your LinkedIn profile to see kind of where
oh man.
Yeah, it kind of come a long way from the beginning, right? And so tell us a little bit about your background and why you started Steele, other than the fact capitalizing on what a great name, right?
I have to give my husband credit for the name. I married into it. He helped come up with it. And the name kind of has a dual meaning. So when you blue steel, right, the actual process of bluing, it makes the metal more beautiful, corrosion resistant. It makes it last forever. And so the idea is that our strategies and the things that we do help do the same thing for your business. And then there's also a fun Zoolander reference in there too, if you're a Zoolander fan.
I did not think of that, but yes, there is.
Yes. In fact, on our about page, it says, yes, we are ambi-turners. So if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you're not really missing out on too much. But so in my background, I've always been very entrepreneurial minded. You know, when I was a kid, I wanted to grow up and be a large animal veterinarian and run my own practice and be my own boss. I've always kind of known that I wanted to have my own business. Turns out I'm not quite good enough at math and science to go to vet school. And so I ended up changing majors, got into technical writing, which is really boring. And right around 2008, when I graduated from college, that industry was completely folding in on itself. And so I shifted everything that I learned about communications into a marketing career. And that's just been an amazing fit for me. It works well with both parts of my brain, and I love it. So my last full-time job, I was in-house at a broker-dealer in Dallas, supporting about 500 financial advisors, helping them with their marketing, you know, really providing kind of an in-house agency. And I saw that a lot of these people, we were an independent brokerage, so they would come from a captive brokerage like Merrill Lynch or somewhere where they had a lot of support. And they would come into our world where now they're having to pay for their own marketing. They're having to pay for everything that they're doing. If they're building a website, if they're bringing someone in to do strategy. And I saw that these people were just really being ripped off. I mean, there's so many companies that capitalize on those financial advisors and charge them ridiculous fees for really shoddy work. And so when I left that job, I really wanted to be able to help those folks that I was seeing struggle and feel like they were failing at being business owners and running their own practice, to see that, no, you can do this. You just need the right support, and you need someone who's going to come in and give you a strategy that actually works, and that they're going to support you, and they're not going to just give you some cookie cutter solution and charge you 10 times too much for it. And so that's where I started this business, was really focused in on financial advisors and people in that world, and then have just grown from there. So that was about 12 and a half years ago. I actually started the business while I was on maternity leave with my second child. So he and I went around knocking on doors, and little baby in a sling was hard for people to say no to. So it took about 8 weeks and was up and running.
Brilliant marketing strategy you had
yes.
there. Wow. So I did kind of go deep on your resume to kind of look, and come a long way since being a technical writer for Match.com.
Yes. Yes.
Now I suspect that there should have been people who maybe should have hired you to make them look better on Match.com, perhaps. I don't know. Although, hey, I've been long married since way before Match.com. So how fun. Look, I love your LinkedIn tagline, answering the question, why isn't my marketing working? Helping businesses grow with clear messaging and websites that generate leads. So, Heather, the $64,000 question today, why doesn't a lot of marketing work?
There's a lot of reasons, but the one that I see most often is that people do not set a strategy and then stick with it. People expect quick wins. They want to see results way too fast, and they abandon their strategy too early. They're not giving it enough time to actually work. They're expecting to be able to throw some ad dollars out, run a campaign, and see immediate ROI. And that's just not how marketing and branding works. People need to stick with it. They need to set a strategy and stay the course. The other thing that I see is that people a lot of times are kind of working blind, right? They're doing stuff, they're posting, they're sending emails, they're doing some kind of one-off campaigns, but they're not tracking anything. They're not looking back at any of their analytics. They're not looking at results and then learning from that to improve. And so those two things right there, if you could set a strategy and stick with it, and then also actually take the time to review and understand what performs and what doesn't, and learn from that, that will drastically improve everything you're doing in your marketing.
Yeah, and that sort of answers my follow-up question to that, which is, how do you know you've got the right strategy? And it really comes down to testing, right, and making sure that that you're getting the results. I know that when we started, the very first thing that we did marketing the upcoming Business Transition Summit, we used a subject line that your partner Randy hated, but that delivered amazing results, right? And so it's testing and trying those things to know how it is. So to know how it's going to work out. I think another key problem, having been a business owner in 100 different businesses, and I actually have a degree in marketing, but mine was from 1985 when, marketing, we were still, carving stones, and writing that way. So marketing today is a whole different ballgame, but still, certainly some of the principles apply, but that business owners don't take the time to really define what's the goal. How do we measure the return on investment for marketing? Because I argue you should measure return on investment on everything, right? And you can certainly do that on marketing. And do you find that a lot of business owners or folks that you work with in and out of businesses, do they have a clear understanding of what the end goal is, or are they just, let's generate some leads?
It's funny. Randy and I have something that we say all the time: leads are not the problem, right? Everyone thinks leads. When they think about marketing, they think leads, leads, leads. I need more leads. We hear that so many times, but leads are not the problem, right? You can get leads, you can buy them, you can scrape them, you can get them. That's the easy part. What people don't focus on is everything else, right? Moving those people through the funnel, getting them to convert, getting them into repeat sales, getting them to come back and buy from you again and refer. And, that's really where the biggest problem lies, is that people are so focused on this lead generation that they're not doing everything else. They're kind of just abandoning their marketing when it comes to everything that's going to move those people through the funnel. And I went off on a tangent here, so you're gonna have to bring me back to the question that you actually asked.
No, you've gone down an interesting path here, because a lot of people who are what Michael Gerber would call technologists, right? They're not entrepreneurs, they're technologists. They own a business, but they're really technologists, meaning that they're good at whatever their craft is. Maybe that's making pizza or bending steel, but he calls those technologists. But a lot of those folks are folks who haven't been exposed to this, think that sales and marketing are the same thing. They're two different functions here. And so a lot of what you're talking about here is getting those leads and then tossing it over and then getting it converted. But what I'm hearing from you is that once a lead is in the door, marketing's not done. So why don't you expand on that a little bit?
So first of all, I believe that marketing's never done, right? As long as you've got a warm body there, you still need to keep marketing to them. So marketing's job should be to continue to get the brand in front of those people, even if sales is working with them. Marketing's job should be to control the message that sales is delivering. Marketing should be supporting that sales department with the right materials and collateral and things that are going to help push the person through. Now, obviously, every organization is different. But most business owners that we work with have a pretty small sales department. They don't have teams of people to be on the phones all day. And so they need to make those salespeople as efficient as possible. And one of the best ways to do that is to equip them with great messaging, with a system and with some good automated marketing that's going to keep the brand and the message and that this is the problem we can solve for you in front of the prospect. Because it takes that repetition, right? It's very seldom that someone's going to see our brand, like an ad, go make a purchase, and then become a customer for life. We've got to continually be in front of them with the right message and continue branding and marketing to them. And once that sale is complete, we're not done, right? If we want a valuable business, we need to be selling to the same people over and over and over and over again. And we also need to get referrals from those people. And we need to get good reviews from those people. And we need them to have goodwill about our brand out in the world. And so marketing's job is never done. We have to continue to treat prospects and customers and past customers as if they are brand new opportunities.
I constantly challenge our clients to come up with cross-selling opportunities. Let's invent, have you got a new product line we could bring on? Can we sell more to our existing customers? Because these are people who've already raised their hand and said, we love you. And we want to do business with you. So how can we get more of their wallet? And I think that marketing plays an enormous role in educating customers about the breadth of a product line or service offering or whatever it is. And that cross-selling is the easiest and fastest way to grow a business, because you're not trying to sell to somebody who doesn't know you. You're trying to sell to somebody who already knows who you are. And one of the challenges sometimes with that is perhaps you've got a fairly broad product line, but the customer bought you for X. And they think of you as the X company, and this is all that they get from you. They don't even realize that you offer all these other things. And if they're so happy with you here, you need to be using your marketing efforts to educate them on all the rest of this stuff, so that they might be willing to expand their wallet, their spend with you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally does. And I think, one way that we make that easier for businesses is, instead of looking at products and services and what the features are, or even the benefits, we look at, what problem do you solve? What problem do you solve for your customer or for your client? And we should be able to narrow that down across a business to a single problem. And sometimes that's difficult if they have a varied product line. But when we can narrow that down to a single problem, we exist to solve X, then it becomes much easier to tell that story and to build out messaging that's going to be very compelling to someone to want to purchase in those multiple buckets. Because then we're able to say, we know you have this problem. We've already solved a little bit of it with this first product or service that you bought, but come back and we can help you in other ways to solve that big problem that you're facing in your life.
Well, I love that. And I want to go back also and unpack the other thing that you brought up in your previous answer, and that was referrals. We relentlessly measure everything in my businesses. And one thing that I've discovered through the years, referrals are like gold. I mean, you can take referrals and deposit them in your bank account, because you can convert those so much easier. In my last business, the web leads that we got had a reasonable conversion rate, somewhere around 10 or 15%. Our trade show leads and efforts that we did there, converted 12 to 17%. But referrals, we closed 91% of them. 91%, meaning that if you can get a referral from an existing customer, it is like gold. So what do you do in your marketing effort to generate your existing customers to give you referrals?
Well, first of all, you have to treat your customers really well. You have to deliver a great product or service. If you're not doing that, then no amount of marketing will help you, especially not in today's age. It's just not going to work. So you have to get the product or service right. And then you have to deliver it in a way that reduces all of the pain in the process. So when we go from problem to solution, right? I have a problem. Here's this product or service that can fix that problem. But in the middle of that path, there's pain, right? There's cost. There's fear of, is it going to be a good solution? Is it going to, am I going to get ripped off? Is this going to work for me? There's usually some sort of, time and effort that's involved in getting to that solution, even if it's a product you're buying online or if it's a service like you and I deliver. So the more that we can really eliminate that pain, right? Make it easier, make it more palatable for them to get from problem to solution, then the more likely they are to be excited about referring us. The other thing we have to do is ask for those referrals. So once we complete a project or someone purchases something, we have to be asking for those referrals. And, the way that our brains work as humans, we are the hero of our own story, right? And so when we're asking for a referral, we have to do it in a way that pleases that part of the brain. So rather than saying, hey, it was great working together, I'd love if you could refer me, what I like to say is a message more along the lines of, you are the kind of person I want to work with. This was such a great experience. I want to work with more people like you. And so if you could tell your friends, your colleagues about your experience working with me, that would really help my business to be able to bring in more people that are just like you. Now we're stroking that ego, right?
Yes.
We're
That's
getting them into that hero spot, and they are much more likely to want to help us because, first of all, we're saying you're the solution to my problem, right? I need to grow my business. I need more people like you. You can be the one to do that. You're that important. You are the guy. And so that puts them on this pedestal where they want to send those referrals. And so we have to be really careful with the language that we use. The other thing that we can do, especially when we're in a service-based business, where we can very specifically say, I want to work with these specific people, so we can ask for those introductions directly. There's nothing better than a direct introduction. And so we can use LinkedIn or just knowing our networks and say, hey, I see that you're connected with Cindy. I would love to work with her because, again, I think she's going to be really similar to you. We're going to really fit together well. We're going to have a great working relationship. I think I can help her with XYZ. Would you be able to make that introduction? And so asking for those things directly is the best way to do it. If we're in more of a product or something where we're further removed from having that direct relationship, then we've got to go with the, you're the ideal customer kind of approach.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I use LinkedIn a lot when I'm trying to get through to somebody that I don't know. And I've actually done that recently here with the Business Transitions Summit that's coming up in May. There are some potential sponsors that I wanted to get to know. So I went to LinkedIn, found the right people, right? The decision makers that I needed to get to. And then I looked in, all right, who do I know that they know, right? And ask for that warm introduction. And it's worked beautifully, right? It's worked beautifully. So use your network and all that. Wow, this is a great conversation. And by the way, folks listening in, that strategy for getting referrals was worth the price of admission. You listened that far, go use that tomorrow, and you will double your investment in this podcast. So now for business owners, let's switch our thinking just a little bit. For business owners that are thinking about their exit strategy, why is marketing important for them?
Marketing is the change agent for everything that needs to be fixed in your business before you can sell it. If you have revenue diversification issues, marketing will fix that. If you have brand issues, the brand is way too reliant on you as the owner, marketing fixes that. The cool thing about marketing is you can even protect what is most important to you. So when we do a strategy with a client who's planning to exit, there's an emotional part of that, right? Especially people who've owned and run their business for a long time. They have employees, they're very emotionally tied to their business. And so we take them through a process where we identify what we call their PIP, right? It's people, impact, process, and profit. And we identify what matters most to them in those buckets. If it's people that matter most, and that's what keeps them awake at night, is worrying about what's going to happen to my employees when I sell this business. Well, then let's create a brand strategy that ties those employees so closely to the business that they are part of the value. We did this for a bank client of ours where they were, planning to sell, but really didn't want to lose the employees. They wanted their people to be protected. And so we were able to create a strategy where those employees became the brand. We put out so much collateral and branding and marketing and really worked to build in those people as the core assets of the brand, so that if the buyer let those employees go, it would actually cause them to lose customers, right? Because we had tied them so closely to the brand. If it's impact, right? If the thing that matters most to a business owner is the impact they have on their community, or maybe the way that they're going about doing their business, they're able to give a lot back to organizations that matter, or they're impacting the community through maybe the way that they create their products is, very environmentally friendly or something along those lines. Then we can, again, build that into the branding so that it's protected. Same thing with, if it's process, if they are really proud of the way they do business and the way that they make their products to deliver their services, then that becomes very tied into the brand, so that, again, it can't be separated once that business is sold. And then finally, if the most important thing to them is that profit piece, they want to walk away with the biggest payday they can. We can do that too, right? We can work with someone like you, and we can figure out exactly what this business needs to look like so that they can get that highest dollar amount possible. And most people have varying levels, in each of those buckets. But that's the thing that really makes a difference in how we approach a strategy. Because number one, we're going to make smart decisions. We're not going to do things that are going to hurt the business's chance of transferring, but we're also going to protect what matters most. And that really helps solve a lot of the emotional problems that these owners have when they're going into, the process of even thinking about selling. Because now we can protect those things that matter, and we can actually make the business more valuable because of it. And we can help them with attracting the right buyer because of the way that we're marketing and branding and the type of business that we're building.
Well, you've given us a lot of insight here into kind of the way you guys work. Can you just walk us through like a typical engagement? How does the process work, and what really sets you apart from other marketing agencies?
Yeah, so I think starting with what sets us apart, especially when we're talking about a business that's going to transition, a lot of the things that we would do are the opposite of what a typical agency would do, right? If we have a business that we're working with that we know is going to transition, and let's say that it's a family-owned business where a lot of the relationships are based on the owner, a typical agency would capitalize on that. And they would say, we can make easy money on building up this brand, even more on this family name, really going deep into that, building on top of these existing relationships. But we would look at that and say, that's fine for now. That's going to maybe bring in some additional revenue, but it's going to kill you when it's time to transition, right? So we would focus a brand strategy that's on the business and starts to pull away from that owner and do things very differently. The same with, when we're starting a strategy, we're not just looking at what difference do you want in revenue. We want to see, okay, let's get into the nitty gritty and talk about the products and services and what change needs to happen in those revenue streams to be able to get you where you want to go. So instead of just selling whatever's the easiest product or service to move, we're going to work with someone like you to determine, okay, what does an ideal revenue stream need to look like, broken down across these different products and services, so that our strategy matches with that. So it might be harder, right? It might be that, hey, this recurring revenue service or product is really what Tom wants to see increase, because that's what's going to look good to a buyer. That's what's going to help increase their multiple. But it might be the harder thing for us to market and sell, right? But we're going to go after that because it's what is going to actually help build value in the business and get them where they want to go, instead of just saying, well, let's just take the easy thing to sell, right? And boost that as much as we can. That's going to impact revenue, and that's going to be great, but it's not going to help your long-term chances of getting the transition that you want.
Yeah. And by the way, I can answer that question already when folks go, well, what kind of revenue do I want? Recurring revenue, people.
Yes. Yes.
Buyers are buying predictable future cash flows, and you have that if you have recurring revenue. And so that would be my argument, that your marketing team, you, first of all, if you don't have recurring revenue, you need to find a way to do it. And there's always ways to figure out how to do that. And then you need to focus your marketing effort on building that kind of thing, because that is long-term sustainable and it's predictable and buyers love it. So
a typical engagement for us, we start with looking at the vision. Where is the business going? Are they transitioning, or are they just making some sort of big change? What is it that they see happening in the next 5 years? And then we go through our value process, where we determine what do they value most about the business? What do we need to protect? That's that PIP process that I talked about earlier. The next thing that we do is we get with the business owner and hopefully someone like you to start looking at, what does that budget breakdown need to look like? What do we want the numbers and the revenue streams to look like by the end of our engagement? And what are some important KPIs that are going to tell us if we're tracking in the right direction or not? And so we'll work closely with their exit planning team or their value builder or whoever's helping them through this process to make sure that the goals that we're setting, the KPIs that we're indicating, and what we're trying to achieve actually align, right? So that we're moving in the right direction. The next thing we do is we have the clients gather all of their marketing assets. So everything they've created, every campaign they've run, everything they've done in marketing over the last 3 years. And we do an inventory and analysis of all of that. Because a lot of times what we'll find is there's some really good things they've been doing, but because they didn't actually look at the performance, they didn't see, right? Owners always expect that hockey stick, right? That's the kind of results they want on everything. And so what happens a lot of times is that hockey stick looks more like this, and then it goes up, right? So we'll see that they've had campaigns that they've been running that are in this almost looks like a flat line state, but actually, if they had just kept going, that campaign was just on the verge of paying off for them. And so we want to get our arms around that and see where were those missed opportunities, what can we use collateral and asset wise moving forward so that we're not hitting them with starting over from scratch. That's another thing a lot of agencies do. They want to come in, they want to rebrand you, they want to start over everything, create a new website, new everything. There's no reason to do that, right? If you've gotten this far off of the things you have, there's probably some gold in there. So let's find that and know what we have available before we go just recreating everything. Our next phase in our strategy is we do research. So we look at the market, we start to understand what are some good expectations, what's working and not working in this market. And then we move into actually building the strategy. So we'll create a very detailed strategy of exactly what needs to happen over the next 12 months to start getting on our way to meeting those goals. The other thing we do that's very different from other agencies is we document everything. We provide them what we call a marketing playbook for every tactic within their strategy. So they have a process, it's documented. That's another thing that adds a ton of value in the business, because now it's not, oh, well, we have this great marketing strategy, Heather and Randy put it together and Susie over in marketing knows how to run it all. But if she ever leaves, we're SOL because nobody else knows what she's doing or how to do it. Yep. So in these playbooks, we're documenting the exact processes. We're also setting, what are those expectations? What metrics should you be monitoring? How often should you monitor them? Where the heck are you going to get the numbers from? And what indicates a need for a change? So this, again, is very different. It's much more detailed than what most agencies are delivering, because we're saying for this tactic, I want you to check in quarterly. And if by the third quarter, you're not seeing X result. We need to make a change. This ain't working. So that instead of a business owner checking in after that first quarter and not seeing what they want to see and deciding to ditch out, we're telling them exactly how long they should keep at it before they make a change, so that they're not leaving so early from a campaign or a strategy that they're not giving it time to complete. So then we deliver that strategy back to the business owner, and typically will stay on in a fractional role to execute it. The other thing that we add on for owners that are preparing to sell within the next 1 or 2 years is we include a post-exit strategy. So we work with someone like you. We figure out what kind of buyer they're probably going to get, what kind of transition that's going to be. And especially if it's a situation where the owner is expected to stay in the business and meet certain goals, whether that be through employee retention or client retention or some sort of new revenue goal based on the investment into the business. We'll work with someone like you to try to figure out what that's going to be. And then we create a post-exit strategy where we give them the playbook of how they're going to meet that goal. So this could look different depending on if the owner's staying in the business and has some goals to meet. Then we're going to say, okay, you're probably going to have this additional cash come into the business. Here's how you're going to take the marketing piece of that and up your game to meet your goals. If it's you're just exiting, then we're going to put together a playbook that's going to say, here's how to take this brand and incorporate it into another business. So that we're, again, just giving them these steps to take, whether it's the owner themselves, if they're staying involved, or if it's the new business owner, so that it's all laid out for them. They know exactly what to do, and we can paint a very clear picture of what it's going to look like after the transition, so that, again, that business feels more valuable. Even if all the numbers are the same between this business and another, having that post-exit plan is going to make it look so much better and so much more desirable, because they have their shit together, they know what they're doing, and they have a plan for what's going to happen after.
That's amazing. That is a lot of stuff. And
it is.
And something that on the back end, that post-exit strategy, I had not heard you talk about that before. Nobody does that. You guys are really, that is clearly a differentiator for you, especially working with businesses that are going to that are going to exit. But two things real quick, and that is the marketing playbook. As we preach to our clients all the time, you've got to have a playbook for everything, right? You've got to document all your major processes. You got to get them. And the fact that you do that with your clients is a very helpful thing, because owner dependency sometimes is not the owner of the business, it's the owner of the process, right? And you're dependent on that person, and you need to solve that, because owner dependency is one of the biggest deal killers for especially small businesses. But then there's one thing I want to take issue with you over. You keep saying working with someone like me. Have you not worked with me long enough to realize that there is no one like me? Come on, Heather. So,
I can't wait for us to get to do a client deal together.
That's it. We've got to do that. There is no one like me, people. So there are a few other folks that do some things similar to what I do, but no, there's nobody quite like me. All right. Well, we're kind of wrapping up here. Let's get to the impact question. If there, one last question that we always ask, because this podcast is all about maximizing business value. So Heather, you're a business owner and you work with business owners who are exiting their business. What is, in your opinion, what is the one most important thing that you recommend business owners do to build value in their business?
It's going to be a combo answer, but it's really
here we go. It's a hyphenated, right? Okay.
Create, document, and follow processes.
Oh.
That's the number one. You got to do it.
I like that.
If you don't have a process, your marketing will fall apart. It will not be transferable. Someone's going to quit and leave, and you're not going to know what to do. Yeah. And I see a lot of times that people are doing one of those things. They might create the process, but then they never document it, so no one follows it. They might get as far as documenting the process, but they're not holding themselves to actually following their own process. And I am guilty. I love a shiny object. I love trying to find a new way to do things that's faster and better and quicker and more fun. But the times that I feel most successful are when there is a documented process that I don't even have to be involved in, because I can just turn it over to someone else to follow.
Oh gosh, yes, that's and we're all guilty of that, right? But my mantra here, and the people who work with me closely realize know pretty quickly that my motto is, if it ain't broken, break it. So we constantly try to break things and find new ways to make them better, more efficient. So I love that. I think that's a brilliant answer. And I think if you listen to last week's podcast with Susan Fenema, then documenting processes is wildly important. Go back and listen to that one. And then one we had earlier on with Charlene Aldridge at Aldridge Curran Associates, also talking about documenting processes, some other great resources for that regard. Now, I'm really looking forward to your answer to the next question. I ask all of our guests the same question, and that is, what personality trait has gotten you into the most trouble through the years? Having worked with you closely now for a few months, I can't wait to hear the answer to this.
I am incredibly stubborn, and I don't like for people to tell me when I'm wrong. That's probably the one that's gotten me in the most trouble, but also is the most necessary for me to be able to stick it out and make this business work.
Okay, I'll accept that. It's stubborn, really. Are we sure? Are you talking about you here? So I think you.
I don't think you've gotten to see that side of me yet, but it'll come out.
No, but I think you've seen that side of me already. So, yeah. So awesome. So how can our viewers and listeners get in touch with you?
Website, bluesteelsolutions.com. That's going to link you out to all of those other businesses that I am involved in. And also LinkedIn is where I spend most of my time. So you can find me on LinkedIn as well.
Awesome. Heather, thank you. Thank you for coming on, sharing your expertise and knowledge with our audience. And I'm confident that some of our audience members are going to reach out to you and learn a lot more about what Blue Steel does. Thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for having me, Tom.
You can find Heather at bluesteelsolutions.com, and that's steel with an E on the end of it. So there's 3 E's in steel, bluesteelsolutions.com, or on LinkedIn. Of course, you can always reach out to me, and I will be happy to make a warm introduction to a wildly talented firm, at Heather at Blue Steel. This is the Maximize Business Value podcast, where we give practical advice to business owners on how to build long-term sustainable value in their businesses. Be sure to tune in each week and subscribe on whatever channel you found this on, because that way you'll never miss an episode. And secret hint here, you'll be notified in advance of the public when another episode drops. So until next time, I'm Tom Bronson, reminding you that your marketing strategy can dramatically impact your exit strategy. So make sure yours will maximize business value.
Thank you for tuning into the Maximize Business Value podcast with Tom Bronson. This podcast is brought to you by Mastery Partners, where our mission is to equip business owners to maximize business value so they can transition on their terms. Learn more on how to build long-term sustainable business value and get free value-building tools by visiting our website, www.masterypartners.com. That's master with a Y, masterypartners.com. Check it out.
That was perfect. I wouldn't make any changes on that.